Hey everybody, I just got back from visiting Virgin Islands National Park and I want to give you all the tips so that you can visit this park for yourself. First up, let's talk about how to get there. The main way people are going to get to Virgin Islands National Park is via plane. You'll fly into the airport on St. Thomas, and from there you'll have to decide whether you want to rent a car or take a taxi to the ferry. More on that later. Either way, you'll have to get to Red Hook, which is about 35 minutes from the airport and where most of the ferries leave from. The ride over the island on the ferry is about 20 minutes or so, and it is beautiful. Once you get off the ferry, you'll be in St. John, which is where the national park is, and you can start exploring. One note about the ferry, I did not book my ticket in advance as it's hard to figure out what ferry is going to be there at what time. There are a few different companies that manage the ferry system, and booking a ticket on one doesn't allow you to access a different one. I figured I'd just show up and get on the next ferry when I arrived, and that worked out fine for me. Note that it may be difficult to do that during peak times of the year and that you may have to book a specific time slot in advance so that it doesn't sell out. This is especially true if you're going with a car. Maybe somebody in the comments can talk a little bit more about that, as it was somewhat confusing to book in advance and to guarantee you were on the right ferry to not be double charged, which is why I did it the way that I did. Also, you get a discount on the fare if you go with the same ferry there and on the way back. So it's either $50 each way or it's about $65 round trip if you go with the same ferry. That's why it's important to try to get the same ferry if you can. Next, let's talk a little bit about car rentals. I can only speak for what I did, but I found it a lot cheaper to rent a car at the St. Thomas airport and to pay for a car ferry over to the island, as opposed to taking the taxi to Red Hook and then the ferry over and renting a car in St. John. You really need a car to explore this national park, so definitely rent one if at all possible for your trip. I found it to be pretty easy to rent at the location of the airport and drive over to Red Hook, but getting on the ferry with your car is a little unique as you have to line up and then back onto the boat. Also, you have to drive on the other side of the road from the US mainland, so driving can be a little bit stressful on St. Thomas if you're not used to it. Once you get to St. John, you'll still drive on the opposite side of the road, but there's a lot less traffic, so it's not as difficult to get around the island. One note, parking is very limited on St. John, so get a hotel that has parking so at the end of the day you can just show up and you have a place to park. And if you want to visit some of the main attractions, you're going to want to get up early in order to find a parking spot. Last note on driving, the roads on St. John are narrow, they can be steep, and they're windy. I had no problem with them, but if you're not used to this type of driving, it may be a reason not to do it. Again though, I had a lot of fun driving here and it allowed me to access the entire island, so I'm glad I rented a car. I know there's a lot of logistics at the beginning of this video, but it's more difficult to visit than a lot of the national parks, so I wanted to make sure you're prepared. Next, let's talk about a place to stay. First, you're going to have to decide whether you want to stay on St. Thomas or on St. John. The park itself is on St. John, so staying there can save you tons of travel time and give you a head start on visiting the popular spots. I found a great hostel type hotel on St. John where I had one double bed in a tiny room and then shared a bathroom with others, and it was perfect for me and well priced since I spent most of my time outside of the room anyway. Other hotels on St. John were very expensive, so be sure to check and book these in advance as there's not a lot of hotels and they do sell out. If you're staying on St. Thomas, aim for the first ferry each morning to maximize your time. Note that the ferry is about 25 minutes each way and you need to get there early, so it can easily be around 2 hours of travel time each day if you're taking the ferry there and back. There are some taxis on the island that will take you to different popular locations like the beaches, but they will not take you to all of the things I did in my video, especially some of the further away spots. Alright, let's talk a little bit about a national park. I have two quick notes for you. First, there's a visitor center near the docks that has a small gift shop with a few exhibits. There's no charge to enter the park, but you will have to pay to enter some of the more popular beaches. The most popular spot in the entire park is Trunk Bay. The parking here fills very fast and you'll want to get there early to find a spot. The rest of the locations have small parking lots, so it's best to try to tackle any of your must-do spots in the morning and then just see what kind of parking is available as you're driving back in the afternoon and let that determine what you see in the second part of the day. Alright, we got the logistics out of the way, so now let's jump into some more general tips about the national park and how to best visit it. First, you're going to need to understand the seasons. The Virgin Islands have a tropical climate, so expect warm weather year-round. However, there's a rainy season from June to November with peak hurricane risk in September. If you're visiting during this time, be prepared for sudden rain showers and the possibility of storm-related changes. It's not uncommon for large storms to cause flooding and even power outages on the island. I went in November and the weather was extremely sporadic. It could be sunny for an hour and then intense downpours for another hour. Really, just prepare for anything when you're visiting the park. Next up, plan to do a lot of hiking and a lot of snorkeling. To make the most of the park, I would plan my day around 3 things: hiking, snorkeling, and of course relaxing on the beach. I actually bought a snorkel and mask before I came and I brought it with me so that I could snorkel more remote spots like Water Lemon Cay where there were no rental booths. You'll usually find rental booths open at Trunk Bay, and there's even an underwater snorkeling trail there you can do. However, I'd recommend just throwing a snorkel in your bag if you can, as it's way cheaper to just bring your own than it is to rent them at multiple locations. In terms of hiking, I just brought a light rain jacket, swim trunks, and athletic shoes. These worked on most hikes for me, and I would not recommend hiking in sandals as there are a lot of rocks and things to navigate on many of the trails. Next up, I just want to recommend that you make time for relaxation while you're visiting US Virgin Islands National Park. One of the best things about this park is just the beautiful beaches, and there's a plethora of them around, many of which you may be the only person on the entire beach when you're there. This is not the typical park where you want to jam in as much as possible into a 24-hour day. It's difficult to get here, and I'd recommend you spend 2 to 3 days minimum. That way you can see a lot of the main spots, but also have time to just sit and relax and snorkel on the amazing beaches. It's a fantastic park to just sit and relax at. And you know, that's not the way that I travel most often, but here I love just being able to take my time and enjoy it. Before jumping into my favorite spots, I just wanted to share a little bit about the cost. You can see everything I spent on the screen right now. The main cost that would be more expensive for you is the flight. I came over from Puerto Rico, so it was a short and cheap flight, but if you're coming from the mainland, it'll probably be a lot more. Alright, I just wanted to end this video by quickly sharing my 5 favorite places I visited at the national park. First up, Trunk Bay is one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever been to and well worth the effort. Second, Ram Head is a fantastic hike across beautiful beaches to a stunning lookout. Third, Water Lemon Cay is the best snorkeling I did on the island, and I saw multiple sea turtles there. Fourth, the Reef Bay Trail is a steep trail down to an amazing beach with unique sugar plantation ruins. And lastly, Annaberg Sugar Plantation is a well-preserved spot that helps you understand more of the island's history. Alright, I think that's it for the tips. If I have more, I will leave them in the blog post I linked to in the description or pinned to the top comment on this video. Hopefully that helped answer your questions on how to visit US Virgin Islands National Park, and definitely get out here and see this. It was a special place for me, incredibly beautiful with lots of cool things to do. You can see all of my national park content right here, and we will see you on the next video.